Well, thank you, Bill, for that, and I wish everyone a good afternoon, and welcome to UUP's Vision of the Future panel. I'm Michael Brown, as Bill had noted. I'm a professor, or associate professor in psychology, but I'm also the current UUP Vice President for Academics. And it's a pleasure for me to serve as moderator for such an important event. And then I'd like to thank you all for being here with us today. We live in some challenging times, to say the least. At the federal government, or the federal level, we have an administration that is hostile towards public education. The Chronicle recently reported that President Trump's budget would end the public service loan forgiveness program for student loans. It would also end the subsidized Stanford loans and supplemental educational opportunity grants. The budget would also allow the Perkins loan program to expire, and it would cut federal funding for work-study programs in half. We also have a number of Supreme Court cases that are coming up which pose some serious risks to labor and unions in general. At the state level, this November, the voters will decide whether to move forward with a constitutional convention that could threaten many of UUP's core values, including the right to free public education, the right to collective bargaining, and even the right to join a union. And I hope that you will join us in this room on October 18th from 5 to 6:30 for the UUP Forum on the New York State Constitutional Convention. At the SUNY level, we have a new chancellor, and time will tell what kind of advocate and leader the chancellor will be, particularly for comprehensive colleges like our own. But as we continue to face these myriad challenges head on, we've been given a potentially great opportunity here at SUNY Oneonta. With the retirement of Dr. Klanuski, we are tasked with selecting a new president who will play a critical role in determining the direction of the college for years and possibly even decades to come. If we are to have a say in the future of Oneonta, it is vital that our voices are heard throughout every step of this presidential search process. Today's event is one way to help make that happen, but we must do more. We encourage you to continue the dialogue we begin here today, to speak with your colleagues, attend candidate open forums, and consider writing an article for upcoming issues of the Sentinel. Now more than ever, UUP needs an active and vocal membership. Luckily, we have a distinguished panel of speakers here today who will help get that conversation started by sharing their visions of the college, or the future of the college, and the qualities that we should be looking for in our next president. So I'm happy to first introduce Dr. James Ebert, a distinguished teaching professor of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences and former Dean of Science and Social Science. Dr. Ebert has also served as a UUP representative on the Individual Development Awards Committee and has long been an active member of our chapter. Skip into the next page. Dr. Renee Walker. She's the acting chair of the psychology department, a professor of anthropology. Dr. Walker served as our chapter's grievance officer for nearly a decade, and she was a wonderful mentor to me when I assumed that position about 5 years ago or so. We also have on our panel Cynthia Klink, who is an adjunct lecturer in the anthropology department. She's also a UUP Oneonta academic delegate and the UUP Associate Officer for Contingents. And certainly not least, we have David Lincoln, who is the college's Emergency Management Coordinator and the current UUP Vice President for Professionals. David has also served our chapter as the UUP Membership Development Officer. So all of our panelists have also contributed to the Sentinel, and I hope everyone had the chance to read the wonderful article by Nancy Cannon regarding Renee's and Cindy's work at the Pine Lake Archaeological Field School. It was in our latest our latest issue. So before I turn the floor over to our panelists, I also want to thank Carrie, our office manager, for helping to plan and spread the word about this event. You might have noticed that there is a camera in the room. It's only pointed at us up here, so you don't have to worry about your anonymity. Each panelist will have about 7 minutes to present their vision. If they start running over, I'll probably wave them down, or we don't have a hook to pull them away. So there will be time at the end of the discussion, the panelists' discussion, for questions and answers. Feel free to ask your question verbally, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, because the camera does record sound, you could always write your question down, and somebody will be around, Lorraine will be around to pick up your question, and we could read it out that way. So there's paper and pens on each of your desks. All right, I think I've done enough talking, so we'll begin with our first panelist, Dr. James Evan.
And hopefully the technology will cooperate with me.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, there are some in the room who have similar experience to me. Once we hire a new president, this will be the 4th president under which I will have served, and perhaps some of you have seen more presidents than that. I've seen how the presidency of a college can change the character of the institution and certainly set the tone, and so I think it's very important that we make a good choice in terms of our new president. So I want to present you with what I might call my wish list, and then point out a few things that I would like a new president to tackle. So I think the first thing and most important is that our president should be a leader, and by that I mean someone who is not a manager. We need somebody who can actually set a tone, set a direction for us, and lead us in that direction. We also need someone who's not a figurehead, who goes to meetings and waves at the crowd, but doesn't really lead the institution. So those are some things that I don't want. What I do want is someone with a vision for the college. And that vision can be extremely detailed or it can be extremely broad, but it should be a vision that fits the character of the institution. And whether or not I personally agree with that vision, I'm willing to go along with it for the good of the institution. So, and that's certainly been the case for the SUNY Chancellor's position. I was delighted when Nancy Zimfer was hired because we had so many caretaker chancellors of SUNY. And finally we had someone with a vision. I wasn't thrilled with parts of that vision, but nevertheless it was a vision. So, and I want someone who inspires all of us to strive harder and to reach higher, to set goals for ourselves, and then to encourage us to meet those goals. So, I think that I can kind of summarize my overall view is I want a president who understands that a college is not a business. It's an educational institution. And you can't think of it in terms of a business where we're looking at profit margins and productivity and things like that. It's just inappropriate. And so I don't want a president that has those kinds of things. What do I want our president to have? Some more positive things. I want someone with character and the ability to voice their convictions to the college community and let us know what they're thinking, even if their views aren't popular, but to have the courage to be able to do that. As I mentioned on the previous slide, I want someone with vision, and I want that vision to be something that's achievable, something that we can all work toward. I want a president that has determination and stamina to execute that vision. It's one thing to say, oh, here's my vision for the institution, go do it, but someone who will actually help to make that happen. I want someone who has the courage to make decisions and then own the responsibility for them. I am tired of this president, and to some extent the previous president, using statements like the cabinet approved. The cabinet is an advisory body. It's the president that makes the decision, and I hate that people are dodging responsibility by passing it off on the cabinet. I want someone who has respect for the faculty and for the culture of the institution. Not someone who's going to come in and say, okay, we're now going to try to be an R1. We're not. They should respect the character of SUNY Oneonta for what it is, and it's a great place. I want someone who is willing to engage and be visible on campus. I want someone who is not in their office all the time and not off, meeting with other people all the time, but someone who's walking around and saying hello to students and coming into classrooms occasionally and saying, hey, I just want to see what's going on today. I think that's an important aspect for a new president. And of course, any president should have strong communication skills, and they should be an effective advocate for the college. Not just with SUNY, but with the local community and the region as well. I think that this campus has the potential to be a very important player in the region of Central New York. And I don't think we take full advantage of that. So those are some of the things, some of the characteristics that I would like a new president to have. And these views are my own. I didn't discuss them with anybody else, and so you can throw whatever darts you want at me. But I think that there are also some challenges that our new president should face. And this is, the last item is I think our new president should have a more expansive view of the foundation, beyond just scholarships. There's so much that the foundation can do to support this institution, and I don't think that it is being utilized effectively right now. There are some areas where there's progress, or I'm seeing progress, but I would like to see a more expansive view of what the foundation can do for the college. Okay, now, a couple of challenges. I think that our next president should do something about a couple of things. Now, there are probably more, but these are two that I've picked out. And that's this. We recently saw the administration ballyhooing the fact that we're in the top 50 in the U.S. News and World Report Best Colleges rankings, and we rank even higher when you look at the top public schools, regional universities in the North. That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. However, that's only part of the story. This is the rest of the story. We are tied with Cortland and Oswego at 48th place. Now, what that means is that we're in the top 51, but there are also some schools that are higher on the list that are tied, so we're more like in the top 54, which to me is unacceptable in terms of the quality of this institution. It absolutely galls me that New Paltz and Geneseo are ranked higher than we are. I think that we are every bit as good as those places, and I think that a new president needs to do something that will improve these rankings. Why? Because I think it has an impact on recruitment and retention of students. And that's obviously what this institution is about. So I would like a new president to set a goal, to say that in 5 years, we are going to rise 20 points, 30 points. We're going to surpass Geneseo. Whatever the goal is, I want to see a goal, and I want to see the institution working towards that. And I think a new president can make that happen. The next one, I have a feeling, is going to be a little bit like dropping a big rock into a small puddle. But I think it's something that needs to be said. Our new president needs to do something about this. This is average salaries at our sister institutions. This is from the NEA Higher Education Advocate recent edition 2017 salary review. And the blue diamonds represent the comprehensive colleges within SUNY. The black diamonds are community colleges, and you see where we fall on this chart. That's unacceptable. You can't have a quality institution and expect to retain people of high quality if you don't pay them appropriately. Now, I recognize that averages are misleading in some cases, but I think the trend here is pretty obvious. In some cases, you can certainly make the case that cost of living is higher in some places, certainly in Buffalo and Old Westbury, but I refuse to believe that the cost of living is higher in Potsdam or Cobleskill or Fulton, Montgomery counties. This is just not acceptable. And this has an influence on something that's equally important to the institution, and that is recruitment and retention of faculty. And I speak from a position of being a former department chair, and while I was chair, I lost 2 tenured associate professors, both of whom were recipients of the Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Teaching. Salary was part of that decision for those individuals. And that's not acceptable, and a new president needs to make this a goal and do something about it. And moreover, I challenge UUP to make this the #1 priority with the new president. And with that, we'll sit down. Thank you.
Renee, welcome.
Thanks. I didn't have slides, sorry. Actually do. So, just in terms of my approach to the next president, again, this will be my third president coming in, so most of the time I've been here, it's been under the presidency of Dr. Klanuski, but you know, I've been on, this is my 15th year teaching on this campus. As all of you do, love the campus, love my colleagues, and I've served a variety of different roles on campus, so that's kind of informed me in terms of, or influenced me in terms of what I would like to see for a president. You know, certainly within the anthropology department, in a small department, and then becoming chair of that department. While I was, you know, going up through my time as, you know, moving through the tenure process, I became involved in UUP and was the grievance officer for a long time. And if any of you know anything about that position, it's very, very challenging. But you do get to know a lot of different people on campuses. Again, it's not always the best side of people, but you do get to know a little of the different sorts of things that happen on campus. And that's what also kind of inspired me to serve as the chair of the College Senate for 3 years, because I like to see how those sort of moving parts come together. No one area is more important than another on a campus. We all sort of function together to make it work for the students. And I saw a little bit of that, you know, while I was working on College Senate, and that also led me to get involved in more statewide sorts of issues. So I went to the statewide meetings as College Senate chair, and then I was the alternate and University faculty senator, which, you know, directly we represent the campus. And then, you know, again, to see how we are as a campus in terms of other institutions, because of course we're part of this broader, huge system, and Chancellor Zimfer's new word, systemness, became sort of the whole thrust of the system, that we all sort of work together and share services, and some things worked, some things didn't. But I spent a lot of time talking to other individuals who are in comprehensive colleges as we are, so the 4-year institutions. And one thing that's kind of universal, whether we're ranked as high as Geneseo or not, is that we all feel the squeeze at the comprehensive level, right? We're sort of the, you know, kind of catch-all category. The big institutions like Stony Brook and Albany, Binghamton, Buffalo, Big Buff, they get a lot of attention, often the lion's share of the resources. I mean, the community colleges get a big share of the resources for obviously very good reasons. The techs and the special campuses as well. But the 4 years, I think one of the things I feel that our president needs to do is to provide us with a better and stronger voice, because in many cases we're not seen as being distinctive or different from other 4-year institutions. So I think what our campus struggles with, and we all know how great our campus is what is distinctive about it, what is our identity, and that I think speaks to Jim's idea about having a vision and making that vision sort of work. Because, you know, if people, we have a good reputation with other campuses, we have a good reputation in terms of our students and their families, but what is it about us that makes us distinctive? Because as we continue forward with continued enrollment pressures, I don't think the squeeze is going to change. I think that unless we have a stronger voice, or the new chancellor or our president is able to advocate for us better to get more resources at the 4-year level, I think we're going to continue to feel the squeeze, and it's just going to get worse and worse unless our campus is proactive about it. And I think we have the capacity to be proactive about it. We've got a lot of great skill sets, a lot of things about us that are unique and important. Our campus, for one of the nice things about being on the statewide committees is that you get to visit other campuses, and our campus is stunning, right? And so that's a real strength. And if you talk to students, one of the reasons they decide to come here is often they get a good feel from the campus. But what is it about that feel from the campus, and how can we convey that to the community? So I think the community piece is important. SUNY as a system, to potential students and parents, to find our own identity. I think it's something we've struggled with, and I know being on the Gen Ed committee as well has been a struggle, because it's sort of, well, you know, how do you find some core values, and how do you use that to shape our students if we don't know what those core values are? And so I think our next president really, that vision, those core values, our identity, are things to focus on, not only to give ourselves a good direction and good momentum, but to also to help us within the system, because the system's not going away. So I think someone who knows how to operate within a larger system, again, certainly SUNY is very unique. Maybe California, Ohio has a little bit of similarities, but Pennsylvania to a certain extent. So knowing how to operate within that system, because you know, something comes down from system, and we all have to make it work. So how to take the things that come down from system that might work for us and implement those, but also how to push back a little bit. I don't think that we've necessarily pushed back on some things that have become sort of a burden on our campus, and you know, made our jobs a little bit harder. So someone that can act within the system, be a stronger advocate for ourselves, a strong academic. I've always respected that about Dr. Klanuski. You know, her teaching a class, that she moved up through the ranks from Geneseo. She was a campus governance leader. That's very, very important to me, because again, I can see the draw in maybe having someone who can operate within a business model, because the campus does generate money. We do, I mean, that's kind of how it works, and I'm not so naive, I don't recognize that. But again, we're a learning institution, so I'd like to see a very, very strong academic come in, and somebody who has experience within a variety of academic institutions, but in particular an institution that works as a system. I'd also like to see a president who continues to work with shared governance. Dr. Klanuski and Provost Thompson, after Dr. Mayor Thompson got here, we implemented, when I was Senate Chair, they started to come to our steering committee meetings. It had never been done before. And I'm not saying that it's perfect, it's often not, it's often very imperfect, but they're at the table, they bring up issues that think that should be part of shared governance, or we bring up issues that should be addressed through shared governance. Some things kind of fall through the cracks, which is unfortunate, but I think that sort of give and take has helped a little bit move us forward towards shared governance. I don't think we have true shared governance, but I think that at least there's an awareness of it, and I'd like to see that continue, because shared governance is important on our campus as well throughout the system, right? So you know, basically that's sort of my view. Someone who is a strong academic leader, someone who's experienced with the system level, but most importantly, someone who can, as Jim said, talk to us, go around to different classes, meet with the students, be visible on campus, and help us to see, maybe from an outsider's perspective, help us to see what our identity and strengths are, so that we can continue to develop those, provide us with the opportunities to develop those, and to you know, broadcast that more broadly, community, statewide, system-wide. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I also have no slides. Sorry.
Jim said the hot bar.
I know, he's at the bar too high. He's at the bar too high.
Well, at least you have notes.
I do have notes. I'm actually happy to hear that what I'm about to talk about has kind of already been talked about. And what I was hoping would not be mistaken for as a myopic view is, I don't think will be, given the larger context of what other people have been saying so far. My vision of this future for Oneonta is distinctly informed by my experience as an adjunct. As an adjunct who has been here for going on, I think my third, it might actually be my fourth president. Adjuncts are temporary. But what I want to talk about is not just based on me as an individual. I'm going to be channeling the voices of many conversations I have had for over a decade. So I'm not an isolate, and I think I'm going to focus on the problem with adjuncts and contingents at large. And I think this is a microcosm problem that reflects the larger problems that need to be faced and dealt with by the next president. So just back up a little bit. Adjuncts are currently about 40% or so of the faculty. The number varies from semester to semester. We have many other additional faculty members who are contingents as well. They work as lecturers, they work as professionals in different academic units of the college who share some really similar disadvantages and experiences as adjuncts. We call this group sort of largely contingents. When accounted for, we're over 50% of the faculty population, so we are the majority. We need a new president who is going to maintain or build and found this college on the belief that it is an educational mission and that faculty are at the forefront of the interface between students and this college. I'm not trying to say by any stretch of the imagination that somehow faculty are the only people who are important here. They're definitely not. We can't do our jobs with everybody else in this college community working together and supporting each other. So please don't take it that way. The quality of the work that we can provide, which perhaps has an impact on where our rankings are, is deeply affected by the conditions under which faculty work. Deeply affected by the conditions under faculty work. And average pay for all faculty is one symptom of where this college is at. And I just want to say that as contingents, 50% of this faculty are deeply exploited, extensively abused, disregarded, devalued, and I can just keep going on with D words here. So I'm gonna pound this a little bit because you need to understand the extent of the problem. We are deeply underpaid. Our paychecks do not even come remotely close to paying our bills. We have to work multiple jobs, or we have to rely on other people to help support us. So our abuse is being funded by other people, and the college is pulling on that. We're required to have advanced degrees to teach. We get paid, using national averages, as if we have a GED. Okay? Just letting you know. A lot of the work we do isn't compensated. Student advising, mentoring, letter writing, club sponsoring, you name it. There's a whole lot more that you can put forward from here. We live in a constant state of fear. All right? We never know if we're going to really be working here next semester or next academic year. And it doesn't even matter if we have been offered and have signed a contract. It doesn't even matter if we have printed out our roster of students and have headed to class for the first day. Because sometimes those classes get taken away. If we accept that contract, we still have no guarantee. Maybe they'll come through, but we don't know exactly for sure how many classes we'll have. We counted on that income. Some of us have made decisions to turn down other jobs because we love being here. And now we only have one class and we don't have health insurance. So we worry about our health and we worry about the health of our families. We worry about academic freedom in the classroom. Because to have true academic freedom, you need to be protected. We can be fired at will. Rehired, not rehired at will. I need to be careful about that. If students complain because we bring up a sensitive topic that's hard, that we think we need to approach, that is going to upset somebody, everyone needs to think about how you do that. But if a student complains simply because they don't like it, we have no protection. If a student doesn't like a grade we give, we have no protection. If we fear retaliation, if we speak out against something that we don't like, we have no protection. And what I mean by no protection, I mean we don't even have the right to ask why we are no longer employed here. And if we have the courage to ask, the college does not have to even pretend to come up with an explanation. We're disrespected, devalued, disregarded. We have absolutely no pathways to ever becoming permanent. I'm not saying guarantee us permanent. I'm saying there's no opportunity. There's no path. We can't obtain a prestigious title. I've been here for 13 years. I never get a sabbatical. We're ineligible for most forms of support that are available to tenure-line faculty to do research, professional development, go to conferences. When the college allocates funds for departments to support their faculty to do those things, adjuncts don't count in that equation. There's other lines of support that can be tapped. We're ineligible to apply for most of them. Our years of service are ignored. The dinners that full-time tenure track faculty are invited to for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years of experience, the little award certificates you get, any kind of acknowledgement, ours doesn't count. And if you happen to get invited by accident to one of these dinners, you get turned away at the door because your work doesn't count. Let's keep going on here. We can't apply for positions as internal candidates here because, for a number of reasons, but somehow the fact that we work here isn't taken into consideration under the definition of an internal candidate. The enrollments in our classes get greater scrutiny than the enrollments in our tenure-line colleagues. Some of us have been pressured to increase our enrollments to the level of full-time faculty members while getting paid as a part-timer. Some of us don't get to choose our own textbooks. And if we don't like the textbook that has been chosen for us, our reasoning, our explanation is ignored. Some of us have to justify how and what we teach in the classroom for exactly the same classes that our tenure-line faculty do not have to justify what they're doing. Some of us can't freely choose our office hours because we don't have a private office. We have to negotiate a timeshare. Some of us, if you have an office, don't even have their own desk, their own chair, or their own computer. Some of us have to buy our own videos and class materials because it's not in the budget for the department. And we're only going to be here for a semester or two, right? There's a large number of us who have been here for more than 7 years. Some of us are not allowed to teach upper-level courses, even though we have the experience and the desire to do so. Adjuncts and all the other contingents, we deal with these conditions and we make a lot of personal sacrifices to be the best possible teachers that we can be. We love what we do. I have not heard any adjunct say, I'm only here for the money. Okay, we are not somehow inherently bad people, failed academics, or poor teachers. We work under extreme conditions of structural inequity that puts us at a disadvantage, undermines our ability to do our job, and discourages us from trying to improve. This is not good for the college, it's not good for our students, period, okay? What do we need for a new president? Jim, I could have read your list. Courage, vision, passion, inspiration, dedicated to the mission of the college as an educational institution. Keep in mind who we are, comprehensive college. So I'll give you instead a litmus test that perhaps everyone on the search committee should employ to see if perhaps they can find some of these qualities in their candidates. And again, I'm using contingents merely as a microcosm example. If the candidate does not voluntarily talk about the contingent problem, They are either completely ignorant of one of the largest problems facing universities nationwide, or they don't care. And none of us want a president who is ignorant and doesn't care. If they do bring up the issue, or regardless of who brings up the issue, how do they propose to solve it? They fumble around for an answer? They haven't given it any serious thought. They really don't care about the educational mission of the college. If they blame contingents for the poor quality and rankings of a college, or for accepting the abusive conditions, why don't you just go somewhere else? This says that they are prejudiced, because as a category of people who occupy this title, we are inherently bad. It's our fault. Blame the victim. If they don't talk about incorporating contingents into any plan to solve the problem, this also shows prejudice. We aren't good enough to keep around, inherently. If they say the problem is too big, it's too thorny, it's too pervasive, it's out of their control, and a lot of it will be needed to be negotiated with many people outside this campus, then they demonstrate a lack of vision, a lack of creativity, the lack of the courage, the strength, and persistence, and the belief in themselves to be able to affect any real and positive change for any of us on this campus. So my vision of the future is, 1, I'm in it. 2, I have a really promising future here. And 3, I can say that my new president has my back. And my new president has enabled and inspired me to be the absolute best teacher and colleague possible for this campus. That's the way I see it. All right.
Cindy.
I have no idea how to find that button.
Cindy did awesome.
But you didn't wave any hands, so I kept going.
Okay, so David was gracious enough to sacrifice his time, so we have enough time for a few questions before people have to head out for
So having sacrificed my time, I want to hear from you, because what was presented up here was spot on. So if you have questions for the group, for the panel, now will be the time. If you want, my friend Lorraine here will come down if you don't want to have your voice heard or whatever. But the one thing I will say on this is that, listen to everybody speak. The one thing I heard is you need to be a part of this process. Sitting back in your office, not doing anything, is not going to be helping the problem. It's actually going to hinder it. So all the people I'm looking at in this room right now need to go back and talk to their colleagues, and your voices need to be heard on what needs to happen with this new president. It can't be, you know, just like go back to the presidential election, well, I didn't vote for that person, or what. I mean, guess what? We're going to be here with that person. So let's hear from you. What do you got for us?
I'm not trying to duck questions, but I have a class, so.
First priority.
Who's first? Janet.
Well, I don't know if I have a question, I'm sorry. I don't have a question, but, you know, one of the things that we need is that the next president should be an advocate who can navigate the system in SUNY, and not just a person who builds consensus. Consensus is great, but we have a lot of things that we do very well that are not being applauded or advocated for properly at the highest levels.
I will tell you right now, I learned this a long time ago from my parents, my grandparents, you get what you pay for. We need to, like, I'm looking at people here that do real things in the real world, and we do make a difference. And I know that, the people sitting up front here know that, and I think whoever's gonna sit in that office needs to know that, you know, I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I just want, hey, listen, the reason why I'm still working at this university, I work for almost every state agency there is out there, and I was always working up. It wasn't that I was unhappy, but I finally found a home, and what I have found here is it's a family. So when I sit around, I mean, it's really one of those, it's that kind of feeling, it's that family feeling that it's a great place to be, and money's part of it. I mean, I know right now there's a lot of us, I can go around the room here, and I already know the answer to the question before I ask it, is that a lot of us are the lowest paid in the entire system. So that's known, but now what's going to be done about it, whatever, but you're absolutely right. You know, this is a good thing, and I think it's just making, you know, recognition of that. What else?
Janet back there had a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
sorry.
back here with the potato chips.
God bless.
With the food. I want to say, first of all, that I think from what interaction I've had with system admin, that our campus is very well regarded
Absolutely.
as system admin. Our president is known as someone who understands and supports diversity issues. However, that makes us perfectly well positioned in time to go after more equitable salaries within the system. It's not as though we're coming from under an underperforming campus. We're not viewed that way. So now would be the perfect time for the new president to shake things up seriously about salaries. My question was, it's very well and good, it's important that we get together and talk about this. But those of us who have lived through several presidents and provosts know that frequently the first or second or third rated candidate doesn't get chosen. So, and there have been cases in the not that distant past where let me just repeat myself. The first, most highly regarded candidate is not the one that is chosen to come here. So, faculty, what is our ability to have an effect on the choice of the president? Where are we in the decision-making process?
Well, I mean, let's start right from the beginning, how is the president picked on campuses now? It's done through a consultant.
A consultant certainly chooses the candidates.
No, but as I'm saying, so they choose the candidates, so the question, how is our voice impacted? First, right there off the beginning, the consultant kind of front loads this, right? We're not, I mean, they ask you questions, right? They'll ask you.
Who has the authority to make the decision?
Who has the authority to make the decision? And that goes back to being front loaded. Let's say, here's the 5 people you get to choose from. And then a lot of times, either by has everybody heard of decidophobia? Anybody know what that is? It runs rampant in Albany. The fear of making decisions. It could be for political reasons, financial reasons, or whatever. But a lot of times, we don't jump on the candidate we want. And this goes with I've seen this with a lot, I shouldn't say every search, that's painting with a broad brush. But a lot of times with those searches is we sit on it, we don't act. That candidate we want is now already accepted another position or is moved on. And it goes down to finally you're left with, out of those 5 choices, here's the 2. So I mean, a lot of it's the process, it's literally the process right from the beginning that it's kind of hindered, if you will. I think it's kind of hindered.
Okay.
Did I answer that? Sort of, kind of?
Sure, thank you.
I'm just checking. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I want to add, I'm in the search committee,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's why I'm here, taking notes. The final decision, what we were told in the search committee, the chancellors made that decision. We are moving along very fast because we think that the best time for the candidates to visit us is before we go into finals and before everyone is so busy with their finishing the semester. So hopefully our idea is to bring candidates in November and moving fast. The consultants are not really choosing for us. What they're doing is reaching out to possible candidates to make our pool diverse and big. And then the candidates that they sort out are candidates that really do not qualify according to what we have discussed as a committee.
Okay.
All of the things, all of the issues and the challenges and the wishes that I have heard today here, the committee already talked about it, and the committee is diverse. There's different people, there's faculty, there's also administrators, there's also the college council, students, and different professionals. I think it's about 20 of us, or 25, so I think that we are in a good position. When we bring those candidates, definitely everyone needs to be active during those visits. And we as a committee, what I hope, this is the first time that I'm in this kind of committee, but what I hope is that we can express that on paper to send it to the chancellor, and then they make the best decision, but it's ultimate the chancellor's decision. And there is a member of the chancellor's office that is with us too, in the committee.
So there's more to the puzzle, so. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This is to the panel, which you're one of them. What do you think of, because I looked at the list of the visions of the things you would like to see in a president, and the world is so small. Mexico just had this earthquake, and my colleague here has students there which are already affected. What do you think of the global perspective, inclusivity and diversity?
Right here on the bottom, right here on the bottom, I call it whole community. Whole community. So it's not, and I listen to everybody talk. Here's one thing I ask Bill all the time. Can you give me the definition of union? We're talking about UUP, right? What is the definition of union? Anybody know what the definition of union is?
Be together,
One.
work together, one.
There is no, I'll tell you right now, in my mind, when I look at this stuff, and again, it's no disrespect to anybody, we are all one group. There is no, I'm a tenured faculty, to me, I look at this, I'm a professional. I don't run around and go, hey, I'm a professional. First of all, people laugh when I say that. See, you're all that. I'm part of this community. I belong to this community. I believe in this community. I work in this community. So I'm invested in this community. And I think that's where a lot of this has got to be is we're invested in who's going to be running the show. And again, it's, you know, you heard everybody talk. I don't want to talk in head. Nobody wants to talk in head. You know, you want somebody that's invested in this community, that believes in it, believes in us, wants to see this place succeed. That's the kind of person that we need to have run the ship, that wants to be a champion, an advocate. You know, that's the kind of person that needs to be here. And the thing is, what's funny is we sat back here, and I listened, Cindy's over here kind of like, oh, yeah. So it started as people kept talking, it was the same stuff. I show you the list right here, vision, leadership. We were all, I didn't talk to anybody ahead of the time, but we all had it up here. This is what's needed. So as we move forward, just keep that in mind. And the one thing I found, it's almost like with family. If there's a problem, and if you know, we've all got family, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, whatever. If you sit on a problem, what happens?
It's bigger.
It festers and it gets worse. You're better off to bring it to the forefront and say, hey, guess what? This is what's going on. And sometimes, I put right here, change is good. I look forward, because change, when you push people's threshold, like if you sit in this chair all the time, you know what my favorite thing in the world to do is what? As soon as you get to go out and go get a sandwich, I'm going to sit in your chair. Right? That freaks people out. But it forces you to do things. The other thing I had down here, and it's not because my wife is here, I love dealing with alumni. I like to look back at the people that were here. What were their experiences when they were here? You want to see what the future's going to bring? You got to take a look back and see what's already happened. And then what is the vision? What is SUNY Oneonta? Ask yourself that question. What is Oneonta? It's more than just, I hope it's more than just a college. A lot of these, talk to the kids' parents. I stand out in traffic here moving today. Talk to their parents. Hey, thanks for taking care of my kids. I'm standing in traffic, sunburnt. Hey, yeah, thanks for coming. Hey, can you tell me where to eat? Yeah, sure, go on down. We're talking about generations of people that come here. Well, mom and dad went here, grandma and grandpa went here, whatever. We've got a gem. We've got a gem of a college. It's just a matter of making sure we keep moving in a direction. And I heard that, what is the vision? Where are we going? I asked that when I just got a new boss. I got a new chief. First thing I ask when you walk through the door, what's your vision? I already know what we're doing. We're kind of, like, we don't need a leader that says, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. We already know what our jobs are. I just need to, what's the vision? What direction are we going in now?
Well, what do you say about experience? I think there has been a lack here. This is my fourth president too. And I hear retirees in particular say this, that the experience of those on campus and the experience of those who retired is not valued. And certainly we want to bring in new perspectives, but I hear this over and over again. I've heard it for many years. And I think a president could make a difference in leading others to see the value of experience that we all bring.
You absolutely need. I've got our secretary now is getting ready to retire in January, and she's been here for 25 years. How do you? She leaves. There's no training. There's no mentoring. There's none of that going on. She leaves. You bring somebody else new in and say, hey, guess what? You get to deal with, this is all yours now. Here's the keys. We don't have that, whether it be professors, whether it be, you know, whoever it is. There is no mentorship. I shouldn't say no. Maybe there is some, but I don't see it that often, Marilyn, to be honest with you. I just don't see it. I know we're running towards Jen. Go ahead, LP.
I don't get very active in union stuff, but when I listen to everything that goes on, and you say we're all one, and this is probably very unpopular, but I listen to tenured faculty that are saying, well, we're low on the charts, and I'm listening to the growing population of adjuncts, which I don't know the statistics, but I'm sure it's growing and will continue to grow, who get paid sometimes less than minimum wage. What's the union's priority between those two items? I think the union itself has to think about that.
Let's take that one step further. What do you, parking?
I hate the parking issue.
I knew if I was given the opportunity to bring it up, parking.
I have privileged parking that I should never be entitled to.
There's issues within the union that need to be addressed, and that's the reason why I keep asking, not just Bill, I'm not throwing Bill under the bus. I go to the state, I stand in front of the state. Can you tell me what union means? Because it's all of us together. I've never been a part of anything where it's like, well, we're gonna be here and you're gonna be, that to me does not represent, brother. I am a retired fireman. Worked 20 years for the city of Oneonta Fire Department. I depend on my partner, my partner depends on me. The only way we're coming home together is make sure that we trust each other. And I've always grown up in that culture, and now I'm like, I don't want to be one of those things where it's like splintered, and it shouldn't be splintered. And I don't know how, LP, to answer your question, I don't know how to fix that.
The adjunct situation is despicable.
Absolutely.
And until we do something about that, and it's happening everywhere, it's not.
It's not just here, absolutely not.
But
And Cindy would be
that's
able
gonna
to.
destroy our educational system.
Is that the goal? Look at what's going on in the world. Look at the big picture.
And I'm a part-time administrator who makes way less than I should. Because I'm part-time, and every year I wonder if I'm gonna get another year. And it's 23 years, I finally got an office with a window.
Was it painted or is it real?
It's temporary.
Good, Cindy, you jump, hey, guess what?
So this conversation is going someplace that something I wanted to emphasize, but I clearly just went off on my own my own tangent here. When I was trying to figure out how to frame this, I kept coming back to a community builder and a community leader. Because one of the problems, there are a lot of problems. The president will never works within a system that is well beyond our campus, that they have to navigate. That's a given. However, it's got to start on this campus. And there are 1,001 insults and ways and practices that function to divide us.
Absolutely.
Insults. Divide the pie. How is the pie going to be redivided? Not how can we make the pie bigger? Because as soon as you start, no, and I'm talking about pay, there's a lot of other ways that you can build community. Anything that builds respect, anything that shows respect in some other demonstrable way, that engages us and brings us in and wants us to be here and have these conversations and learn what is going on with other people and want to do something about it. You know, so I actually looked up definitions of community. And, you know, so what kind of community do they want? Some definitions are community of a bunch of people who all live in the same place. So technically we're a community. There's a bunch of us who are employed at this college. But that's not what I want a community to be. I want to be able to trust, depend, and want and to be able to help people, willing to help people. You know, I want to be engaged. I want to feel invested. And the practices that are in place here do not facilitate that. They actively work against it.
I think that speaks to the, you know, diversity, global
Exactly.
perspectives, inclusivity piece as well. That certain members of our campus clearly feel undervalued, isolated, you know, and not part of the community.
And it goes all the way down to the people who work at facilities, you know, and they, you know, having conversations with them, a lot of them are like, you know, I feel like I am the most, you know, expletive word person here. And, you know, and then there's like, well, why didn't someone come empty my garbage can? Well, you know, they're working at now at 3 different buildings. They're going back and forth between shifts. You know, and it's just, there's all these small things that just feed on defensiveness and antagonism that really have to be addressed. So someone who can effectively build and facilitate community. You know, my vision is that this is, you know, I'm in it, but I'm in a community. That's what I need. You know, so anyway, I'm still back on my high horse, so I'll be quiet.
I know, I mean, it's after time, I could be here all day, so. Anything else? And if you don't have something, and you wanna write a question or write, we can email Carrie. I know she's in the office quite a bit, probably more than she should be. She gives of her time, so it's, but again, it's just one of those things that, and I don't want this to be, well, I know Mike and I have chatted, as new vice presidents, this will not be the last time we get together. It will not be the last time we talk about issues. So, you know, thank you first and foremost for coming. Mike, thank you for
Yeah.
putting this together.
Thanks to all of our panelists